All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the people on YouTube, I bid you hello. You are now watching this in the future. Right now, I'm in the present. So while you're watching this, you'll be seeing a younger version of me, because anything that is in the past is a younger version of me and yourself. But as you're watching, you're in the present, but your experience will quickly be in the past. We're going to review Fnatic versus G2. A lot of controversy around this game. Honestly, not controversy, it's controversy is the wrong word. Because I think the Veigar pick is not so great. But before we get to that point, let's talk about the rest of the draft, of course. First pick, Senna. We like it. We don't have a problem with it. It is completely fine, right? No problem. First pick, Senna. Trade for Aphelios. I am kind of conflicted as to which one is better. I think both is quite good, honestly. Both are quite good. I think it's a fair trade. Lee Sin lock-in. I think this highlights that Selfmade has less of prior on Elise, right? Less prior on Elise. And then Aatrox is just denial. So Aatrox is just denial. Because Whipple's champion pool has been targeted already. Set is out, Ornn is out. Ornn is a flex that Fnatic like to use. And Gragas is a good blue side ban because most teams are going to pick Gragas too, right? So this is a decent ban. And then Akali, Syndra, Soraka. Very standard bans against G2 because Syndra is a very strong flex. Akali is a very strong flex, very OP. Permaban is shit. And then even on blue side, you saw Fnatic locking in Syndra on blue because they didn't have room to ban it. And they didn't have room to flex it. So, Soraka, I also respect the ban because no team has really figured out how to play against it. My own ideas, I don't even know if they work, but theoretically, it makes sense for me to be like Irelia, Elise, and then just Permadiver or something like this, because in a lot of scenarios, this Soraka has been blind picked. But maybe Soraka is just too OP because in teamfights she is so absurdly powerful, so maybe it just doesn't matter even if you dive over and over. And right now bottom is such a central point in the meta because if you can snowball through bottom, that's why Korea is picking MF and Aphelios every game because they just find themselves in a position to be able to snowball much faster with these champions through bottom. They take the first Drake, they get the Prio, then they rotate to Rift Herald, and then they snowball through this. A lot of the LCK games are just a team taking 2 Heralds, 4 Drakes, and then just winning the game, while the other team is waiting for opportunities. Nevertheless, the first 3, I think, is pretty standard. Whipple being forced into GP here, I think, because of maybe a minor champion pool, but also GP with the way Fnatic find a lot of success is, especially in the meta that we talked about in terms of heavy bottom prio. GP is very powerful. GP is good against Senna. It is good against Aphelios. It interacts very well with the current AD carry pool because they are very immobile, and the GP ult is strong against immobile champions. Next thing in line is the 4th pick, which is Nautilus. No support bans because the focus here is AD bans, which makes sense. With Cassio ban, there is very little to pick into Lucian and Kiana, and Fnatic need to have an AP mid laner, so they ban the AD carries of mid lane, and it's not like Yasuo would be a good pick here, so they don't care. The only option would be like Tristana if they want to pick an AD, right, instead of Ryze. So they ban AD second wave because of Elise flex. Very normal, right? Nautilus 4th pick. Thresh is banned. This is like Thresh ban. This is, I believe this is the second wave ban, which is basically the last ban of the game. So they are reacting to enemy ban. They want to line themselves up for a Braum. And in a case where the enemy picks Braum, I think they're also fine because Senna is fine into Braum. Braum is not a counter, right? They wanted to play Braum here 100%. I think Nautilus and Aphelios have a winning matchup. That's why I tweeted out Fnatic bot lane can carry, because they do have a lot of options here to win the lane. I think Aphelios and Nautilus do win out, but Senna and Braum is a very scaling bot lane. And with that being said, you know, the game that we are being prepared for here is a game where G2 from Champion Select can play into topside, look to dive the GP over and over with Elise Aatrox, and then now the fifth pick Rise. So the biggest problem I think for G2 is the fact that they, like here, I think G2 just know that Fnatic don't play LeBlanc. It seems to be common information. I was unaware because I don't know Scrim information, and I'm assuming at this point in time that every mid laner knows how to play LeBlanc because it's such a key pick right now in the current meta. The Veigar pick, I think, is just too slow. So it's very easy to highlight like Veigar, okay, you pick Veigar, and then in team fights it's going to be very good against Rise and Aatrox. But it's very rare that Veigar is bad in team fights. I'm not arguing that. You know, the Cage is a very, very powerful utility spell that denies a lot of champions. Why are we seeing so little Veigar being played is because the tempo it has on the game in terms of pressure early on is just way too little. Veigar fits in the same class as a Kassadin. The last time we saw Nemesis play Veigar, I believe it was against SKT, and they won that game. Even in that game, I think that SKT had the better draft. But SKT had one main issue this entire tournament, and that was the fact that over and over they didn't know how to snowball. So if you were in a position where you outscaled SKT, most of the time you would win. If SKT were in a position where if they balance, if the enemy has to snowball onto SKT, they were very good. They were very good at finding balance, and then they could just scale. We had the first example of them facing Fnatic. This was them having Kayle bottom. They had the Tristana mid lane. They had the Akali top. They had a lot of picks. A lot of picks that easily, you know, outscaled the opposition. So with this being said, it worked against SKT because SKT just didn't know how to use Akali to snowball the game. Akali had perma prio and Faker was sitting on the mid wave, and he was not working together with Klid at all. If Klid and Akali take over the whole map because they have prio, they can kill Gragas over and over, push him out of his own jungle and dive GP. The same thing can happen here. Ryze, the lane against Veigar, is pretty straightforward. If Ryze buys Mercury threads, he's going to win Veigar for the rest of the game. Up until the point that Veigar has 4 items. And this is, when I say win, I mean in a 1v1, in a split in terms of getting prio, right? It's not in a team fight. Because in team fight, sure, I agree. Veigar is strong, controls a lot of space, right? The Veigar Cage is strong. He has Glacial Augment, is very powerful in team fight settings. In 1v1, it doesn't matter, right? So here, if we compare both of the compositions, you know, we will reach a point in time where if both teams are even, G2 are going to win split, because Ryze will win against GP and will win against Veigar, and Aatrox will do fine into GP, depending on item choice of GP, and will do okay into Veigar, depending on item choice. So, even at 4 items, I agree. Oceanian, there's an option that is not that good, you know, definitely. Because I think just early game is too impactful. Early game is too impactful, and I think Veigar already from the get-go puts you in a position where you're behind. That's why I was confused about this pick. GP I can agree with. This gives me okay sign. Bottom matchup is good. Lee Sin prio is fine, right? Lee Sin over Elise is okay, even though I rate Elise maybe 1.1 higher, while Lee Sin gets 1 point, Elise is 1.1. This is not some point scale, but just to show how little of the difference is, right? Nemesis doesn't play a lot of AD champions mid lane, so that's why they're going for this. What should they have picked instead? I think they needed to pick LeBlanc. I think TF could have been interesting. I just think that this game is, if you snowball bot, then you have a path to victory. But because of the lack of LeBlanc in champion pool and not picking TF, I think it would have been better. I think it just becomes worse, you know, it just becomes worse. And the question is, TF, maybe you don't want to pick it because you're full AD and you buy AD TF, but maybe they have to buy Mercs anyway. I don't know. TF is a bit of a question mark because I would be afraid to say that TF is a fantastic pick here because I know less about TF than Fnatic does. I am willing to admit that. Like Nemesis and Fnatic know better when it's good to pick TF or not, you know? So if they say TF is not good here, I would trust them. But when I see TF against Ryze with Nautilus, like if you just want to pressure into bottom, I don't see the difficulty in the composition here. Like there's nothing like cards are good against Aatrox, good against Braum, good against Ryze. Elise is fine because she can repel the card right and Senna has good range. But if the whole game is centered around bottom, Aphelios and Nautilus snowballing, Braum wall fucks TF. Why? It's like stunning Braum is good. It's not terrible. You know, if Braum doesn't counter every champion in the game, you know? If you trade Braum E for TF card, then that's fine. Because TF card is a much smaller cooldown than Braum's Unbreakable. If we're going to go with the logic that if Braum can block a TF card, then by definition, Braum almost counters every single champion in the game that has a projectile. He still gets stunned, right? He still gets stunned. So for me, if they had a bot lane that can contest better and they can pressure into bottom together, then I think Fnatic would have better conditions to win this game. But in the case of Veigar, the 2v2 mid lane comes online way too late. The 1v1 mid lane never comes online. Ryze has all the freedom in the world to always be first. I don't think Braum counters TF. I don't think so. I just don't think so. It's the same way people think Corki, like Braum gets countered by... People think that Braum counters Corki, but it's not true. Anything that throws a lot of projectiles is good against Braum. When Braum blocks an ultimate with E, then he's really good into that champion. For example, Braum against Ornn is naturally good because you block his ultimate with a basic spell. You have a spell that is on the base cooldown 16 seconds unbreakable, or 18, I'm not sure about the exact number, in comparison to an ult, right? Jinx is great against Braum, it's alright, right? Misfortune, once again, good example because you block the whole ult, right? You block the whole ult. So these are examples where Braum E stands out. But to block a TF card, that's not a counter. It's just not a counter, right? So here, I think... Thank you so much for subscribing, McWelshie. I think Veigar pick is just not good. It just... I think if Aphelios and Nautilus is ahead this game, then this game is very easy to win. And if G2 bot lane is ahead this game, which they can because of Elise and Ryze, then I think Fnatic's game will be very difficult to play. Because they will lose mid-prio, they will lose side. So how do you actually play it? You know? I think I even said it on the desk. Let's listen. Because I'm pretty sure I said it.
No, but it's actually like they can also still flex it in case, you know, like if they maybe, I mean, they will probably last pick the mid. This champion is like busted, even though the nerf.
Aatrox can almost solo dive them, and it kind of paints the picture already for what we wanted to see, especially what you mentioned, Fab, even with the bot lane play, with the GP ult. It's a Fnatic classic, and then Elise Aatrox already gives you options to play heavy into topside and gank Bwipo. And Bwipo has been a bit of a liability in terms.
G2 wave stacked in, and he will just like get denied a lot.
So what do you think then is like the pick to be then for Nemesis to mix
Mid bans?
I mean, LeBlanc has slipped through,
banned, right?
but you would assume that it's LeBlanc.
I think they shouldn't ban LeBlanc and G2 should.
If Nemesis plays LeBlanc or not, that's the biggest question mark. Beyond that, what do you play mid here? Diana, I guess?
I think actually, yeah, he's actually really good Diana player. Like he was actually the first, actually like and TP to the side lanes, like perfect for them, you know.
How do you feel about a potential Diana LeBlanc if that happens to be the matchup? Because Fnatic are hiding their cards.
I think Nemesis is pretty comfortable with that because he's like the type of player that it's really hard to snowball. G2 will get prior hard out skills.
Potentially a LeBlanc if it's the 5th pick.
I
and
think it's fine actually.
If G2 can transition a lead already from the get-go and already dive GP and kill him over and over, maybe level 4. We saw even Perks roaming even yesterday with the set and getting a double kill and the game was just broken.
Fresh off a victory with Diana, and Featherban's believing Diana can win any 1v1.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
They needed the scaling option. They probably didn't want to sit
And they just lock Veigar.
mid-game.
Veigar's really troll, no? We talk about mid-prior.
Guys, we were
this
just
is
spending 20
Nemesis.
minutes theory crafting about LeBlancs and Dianas.
Wait.
I'm seeing a rise of the Veigar.
Febby, you said 50-50. You see the...
I mean, they should stomp the early game. Like, when I think early game top side should be absolutely in favor for G2. And I think G2's bot side is also pretty safe.
Jesus.
I don't see much playmaking, honestly, from Fnatic's comp. Like, they have a Nautilus.
Oh man.
I'm heavy blue side, man. I'm heavy blue side.
heavy blue side
This
too.
is the comp that beat SKT, but they're facing G2. This is the wrong approach here. Veigar, oh no!
I mean, maybe if they go really late game, they will win for sure. But early mid, they should be able to execute and snowball from that.
Okay. Nevertheless, we've talked about the draft. I didn't find what I wanted to look for, but I just think the options in the early game here are too slim for Fnatic. Oh man, come on guys. I have to... Jesus Christ. I'll just remove the chat box from the stream, from the video. Jesus Christ, man. Okay. It's a good way to get banned. Okay, we talked about enough of the draft. Go sub mode. Yeah, let's go. Subscriber mode. Sellout mode. Okay. So Fnatic did some crazy shenanigans level 1 that was honestly very, very good for Fnatic. They managed to... they managed to freaking burn Rise Flash and Rise TP, which is huge, which was very big. From the get-go, it got me worried. But almost instantly afterwards, Nemesis had to burn his TP for top. Here, this invade is good, like GP is very strong level 1, and Fnatic are just... they just love doing shenanigans level 1. This is something that G2 never did. This is something that Fnatic always did. So Yanko's already chunked. Self-made smited for healing as Wunder was punching away at him. And this is a very, very nice level 1 from Fnatic, honestly. G2 got caught off guard, and here Perks has to flash. Like, this is a disaster. This is very, very close. Perks flashes at the exact right moment, and I wonder if they use the fact that Lee Sin has a bit higher move speed. Here, if Whipple cancels Rise again, it's fucking doomed for him, man. Like, this is huge. Unbelievably huge. Like, Veigar has 6 CS already, and Rise has nothing. Depending on the wave position in mid, Perks losing Flash, losing TP is game-changing. Trading for Lee Sin Flash, Lee Sin does have bad tempo here. As you can see, he's taking his first jungle camp on 230. So it will be hard for Selfmade to find time, especially on 10.2, to punish the Rise. So it's not necessarily that Rise will be unsafe, but Nemesis can definitely find more room in the matchup to potentially win, just because he has TP advantage. This was one of the blunders that I kind of expect from G2 at this point in time, because they tend to be very sloppy in lane. They tend to be very, very sloppy in lane, and very, very often they get caught, and in many games they give a lead away when they don't need to. Overall, they play pretty well, but many, many occasional blunders, which is normal when you have a very new bot lane with a lot of potential, so need to play on limits and with a lot of experience to be gained. Here we have the Veigar TP that we talked about, but it gets cancelled. And then here, there was a little window where Whipple wasn't level 3. And of course, he skills battles level 2, so he doesn't have fruits. So if G2 actually went right away and maybe through the cocoon already now, maybe they could go for it. But it's a very small window as level 3 is already reached after 1 melee. So after that's reached, I think there is nothing to be done. TP got baited out, and you could argue that this TP was wrong to do. But yeah, Weepo gets punched, and then he tanks a lot of creeps here, so he loses a lot of HP, and he burns his mana from the fruit and the Q. And Veigar got cancelled in the mid lane from the EW, and all of a sudden that advantage that Veigar had with the TP is gone. And Selfmade is looking for a gank, but Perks is positioning on the right side of the map. They know that Lee Sin pathing into bottom is very standard, and he's hovering onto Elie's side. So he's playing very, very well, considering he has no flash, and maybe if Fnatic commits all the way, maybe something can go wrong here. But this dive that happened was very good for G2, because they already snowballed top. This was a big monster wave that GP struggled to CS, right? He struggled to CS, he lost a lot of HP, he lost a lot of mana, and he had to TP back with the goddamn Dark Seal. So Dark Seal gives you mana right and increases the strength of your potions, which is fine for lane. It's probably the best item you can buy for 350. Maybe you could argue that Longsword or Sapphire Crystal is better because it scales into Trinity Force, but in this matchup, you know, you need to find as much value as possible early, because later on it becomes worse and worse, even though I think Whippo played this matchup very, very well. So GP already snowballed, Veigar TP is burnt, traded very, very well for, of course, you know, Ryze burns the summoners, and then Veigar burning TP. It's kind of, it repairs the whole situation for Ryze. Ryze got the wave into the turret, and then he based, got tier, so all of that shenanigans that happened level 1 is now like out of the picture, unless Fnatic can find once again a gank with Veigar and Lee after Lee bases for double longsword. But there's always a danger, right? Veigar 2v2 is not that strong, and if Elise is there, they can easily one-shot the Lee Sin. And this is a respect that you need to play with before Lee Sin reaches level 6. In the current patch 10.2, then I think Elise is much better in the Lee Sin matchup than he is in 10.3, because the jungle was increased, and the window, the bigger the window is where Elise is not level 6 and the enemy jungler is level 6, the better Elise is. That's why Elise is so strong in this patch. But for 10.3, Lee definitely is buffed, right? So here Fnatic are playing their lane against TP, and this was the window where they needed to base and walk back. Instead, they decided to camp on bush. Lee Sin is coming into bottom side, and Elise is matching. So here, Elise gets pinged, and there's the hook. They commit on Braum. Braum is punching away on Reckless, and Reckless is quite here. They are walking away. There is no ignite, heal, and exhaust is ready. They commit. Reckless has to flash out, and the TP from Aatrox right away, because, of course, Whippo TP'd back from the dive that we spoke about. So Aatrox TP is here, and this is honestly game losing. This is game losing for many reasons. All summoners were burnt here for Fnatic, and both of them died. Aatrox gets a kill and an assist. GP gets some breathing room, but Ryze, I think, can just push mid and walk into top side. No problem at all. This is, you know, Ryze could catch top if Aatrox is not on time, but you could see that, you know, Wunder base as soon as possible to catch this wave. So he's gonna lose maybe 3 CS, 4 CS for this TP on bottom. So this... Oh, thank you so much for subscribing, Dalton K, man. That's 11 months. Thank you so much, man. That is fantastic, man. Thank you so much. You're one of the longest standing subscribers, Dalton. Much love. So we see a replay of this. Fnatic look to cheese. No TPs live. GP position top was terrible. Mid, of course, no TP on Veigar, but he didn't even have position to go. Even in a case where GP had TP, this would have been terrible. You know, if both top laners TP'd bottom and the way position was the way it was top, it would be so bad for GP. GP was slow pushing into Aatrox, and GP doesn't do anything with his Dark Seal in this fight anyway. So even if GP TP'd bot for some reason, it would have been disastrous. So this is just such a big game cost here, because the items of Senna are stronger, and a big point of snowball and potential is, of course, Fnatic's bot lane. I mentioned in the pregame on the desk that in this game, If Fnatic's bot lane is behind, then it's going to be super, super bad. And then Hylissang here gets rooted. I'm not sure what he's doing over here. He's walking a bit too far. Like he's farming the CS. Like this is troll, honestly. This is very troll. Like he's farming the CS, and Reckless is in river. Like Reckless is scared of something, right? He's chilling in river, and Hylissang is here. Like sure, they got the consolation prize of Ocean Drake. I didn't mention it before because of the tempo that they had off of the bat of the TPs and the bases. But Heli Baba is this is question mark pingable. So this is very troll. Jankos with the Relentless Hunter coming in hot, the root, and then the Brom, passive, procs, and then the Kakuna Matata, CC chain, and another kill. What do you think about rushing Berserker Greaves? Well, the thing is, it depends on your gold, right? I think if you can afford BF is most of the time better, unless you're playing against a lane that is more heavily skill shot reliant. For example, Berserker Greaves can be very good against like a Blitzcrank or like a Brand, right? And with that in mind, with these picks in mind, it's good to go Berserker Greaves. If you have 1100, I think Caulfield Warhammer is just worse. Berserker Greaves, the move speed, attack speed is very gold efficient. Berserker Greaves is a fantastic item. But 1300, I think BF is just better because burst tends to be more valuable than Berserker Greaves. Like the damage output, I think is just better with BF. So if you can buy BF most of the time better, Berserker Greaves is just Kakuna Matata is my new favorite phrase. Kakuna Matata, yeah, it's weird because like I've made these phrases when I was coaching players just to make it like more interesting and more fun, you know, and they just stuck with me. Like Kakuna Matata, Tam Coco, and Gragunia, and all of this bullshit. Nevertheless, Nautilus died. Top dive continues. GP gets completely zoned off the wave. So this is something that Rise will always have the freedom to do. He can just push in the wave and then walk. And that's why I was so surprised by the Veigar. Like obviously this dive goes to shit because Elise is bot. So this is really troll. Like ideally what you do here is like just G2 is trying to accomplish too much. Like if Lee Sin is not showing on bot to defend Aphelios to farm the wave, then obviously Lee Sin is going to be top side. So this is just G2 overreaching. They're trying to deny Gangplank and deny Aphelios at the same time, and that's just a little bit too greedy. Because obviously, if you have even numbers on top side, you can't dive. If there was a different scenario and Elise was here, then it would be good. So it's very good. You know, if Elise is here, it's better. But here there's a 2v2 dive, and even in that case where they kill Aatrox here, which they do, right, it's not the end of the day because GP still lost a monster wave on the turret. Man, I can't remove the pen. Oh man, I can't remove the pen. Oh, okay. There's the pen. Do you think this Fnatic roster is better than 2019 roster? Yeah, I think it has more potential. It has more potential. Perks is sticking around, but I don't know if he should. He needs to base. He's sitting on a lot of gold and he doesn't have enough mana to pressure. So Hylissang, once again, what is he doing here? He's taking a massive bong hit and he's chilling on the wave. It's pretty troll. It's very difficult in this game to play though, because how can Lee Sin actually play this game? How does Lee Sin make a correct decision? Here we go again. Whippo is rest in pepperoni. Elise has options in every lane, and Whippo, of course, double flash. And Elise can gank bot, can gank top, can gank mid, can do whatever she wants. And Lee Sin just needs to try to predict and hope for the best. It's super hard to play Lee Sin in this game. Next to impossible, honestly. What do you think about Senna versus Aphelios matchup? Who outscales that? I think Aphelios can snowball better than Senna, but I think Senna is very, very inconsistent through the game. And then Aphelios, if he falls behind, I think does worse than Senna falling behind. I just think that Senna has like a consistent performance. a fed Aphelios, I think, has more impact than a fed Senna. So I think the snowballing is in favor of Aphelios. But if you're playing a game like G2 where they want to snowball kind of the entire map and dive GP a lot, I think it's better to have the Senna, because I think Aphelios needs attention. Okay, let's go here. So here, what is the issue here? If you pause here for the moment, if you're looking on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitch, what is the mistake of G2 here? Okay, I've given you a moment if you're just here to enjoy. Aatrox's position is going into top side, right? So he's not counted in this play. Veigar is showing on mid wave and no one is showing on bottom. Fnatic do this often when they are in a disadvantage, that they retake with AD carry as well. So with retaking with AD carry as well, it provides you with a better number. Right now, if we take a look at this from Fnatic's vision, they see Mickey face checking this and they see Senna right now, and maybe they have enough vision to see Elise. With the educated opinion here that, or educated guess that Senna's on bottom, they know they will outnumber. So this is a very, very good move that I think a lot of other teams can implement, where they retake mid space and mid river with the help of AD carry. So here, Selfmade misses his Q, which is obviously a mistake, because I think Mickey could die here. And then they walk away, and Mickey, of course, keeps his life. If this Q actually landed, maybe Mickey would die. So Selfmade with the miss on Q, Fnatic with a good way to find pressure. Fnatic is very, very resilient when they are behind, because they find ways to break the usual patterns of the game. Here, if you're G2 and you want to play it safe, right, you want to make sure you want to walk with Senna through mid, or you want to wait for Senna to make the wave, pushing away where Fnatic needs to respond. Or you just wait to face check and you take the prio in mid and you push in Veigar. You just need to make sure that you use the waves to make sure that the enemy shows. Imagine a place where Braum and Elise hide behind Ryze, and Ryze walks up and pushes, right? And then they keep in range, and then they just respect the engage distance of Nautilus and Lee, of course. They're both level 5, so there's a lot of room to play with. And then the enemy needs to eventually show. But this wasn't the end of days, right? This was completely fine. We continue. So now if we think about what Fnatic's next move is, the best hope is with the Nautilus level 6, try to find an all-in on bottom. Lee Sin level 6 with the GP ult. Veigar has TP, so him losing prio doesn't matter as much as before. So this is a very, very... this is probably the best timer that G2 and like the best timer that Fnatic will have. G2 with a classic swap into the Herald, they will take it, no contest, no problem. GP is getting pushed in, and Aphelios is on bottom with no TP. G2 have enough tempo to catch bottom. You can see Ryze is already rotating, he's in fog, so Fnatic cannot make any educated opinion here about doing anything. So this is a very, very neat rotation. I like this move because Nautilus is not high showing on bottom. Ryze will be a bit difficult to dive, and there is also... you know, here, since Ryze caught this big wave, there was no loss for the swap, and G2 kept it very, very efficient here. I like what I'm seeing. Okay. So now Selfmade's level 6, GP ult is on, Veigar TP is on. Veigar, for one time, will have a get out of jail free card. So now the question was, we talked about, I praised G2's rotations here, but I think after pushing mid for one wave, Braum and Senna needed to rotate back into bottom, because here I think Fnatic got a little bit too much breathing room. They got to take some plates and a full wave was lost. So here Senna Braum needed to take full prio and walk into bottom side and to catch this and get escorted by Elise. Because here, as you can see, Fnatic hitting the turret, getting 2 plates. It's a lot of gold. So it's plenty of gold. I think Reckless has enough money to buy a... Does he have enough money to buy BF Sword with triple Dorans? I doubt it. It's probably like 900 gold he's sitting on right now. Fnatic now with another prio on bottom, and just because G2's bot lane is so late here because of the man immune base and what we mentioned before, Fnatic is in a fine position to look to do Drake. Nemesis has TP if they want to go, but Jankos is showing, and Fnatic back off. I didn't realize that Hillisang is behind on XP here. He's at level 5. He's been dying a lot, and this was a beautiful kick. Like Caps is just what is Caps really doing here? He's smelling the trees and the flowers. Because there's no reason for him to walk up like this, right? He wants to look to hit the wave, and he wants to look if Fnatic's bot lane base, but it's a bit too greedy. And Selfmade mechanically plays as well and gets the kick in, and this was just giving Fnatic an opportunity. Fnatic is respecting here because of Nautilus 6, but they are very, very quick to punish when they see an opportunity, right? We heard it in the PGL that G2 had a very hard time finishing this game because, as I mentioned before, Fnatic is super resilient. Not a lot of teams would fish for an opportunity like this because they respect it from before. Hylissang level 5, they don't want to fight the 3v3, even with GP ult. They want to wait for Nautilus ult. And now with this kick, everything changes. Nemesis also finishing GLP, so this is prime time for him to fight. And, you know, if G2 managed to seal this window here, then everything would have been better. Jankos walks into the stun, and then the ult of Nemesis finishes him, and he dies. So this was a very, very good move. Like, this is a big comeback for Fnatic. Very, very big comeback. But Hylissang, they go for Mickey, but Mickey has ult, and this was troll. Like, this is not good. So you're right, Caps needed to flash right after Lee hit his Q, yeah. If he flashed, he would potentially survive. Well, he shouldn't walk up in the first place, because burning flash is also a problem. And walking up too far and not respecting TPs is also a problem, right? We're talking about G2's window to excel, and that's GP ult, TP of Veigar, and Nautilus 6. The same way G2 need to close that window. You know, they need to close that window. They need to maybe pressure into the GP, make him burn the GP ult like this, and just sacrifice bottom for a little bit, right? So Fnatic got a lot out of this window, and this dive here was a disaster, right? I think if this sub only was a scam. The thing is, people were sending fucking dicks in the chat, man. I would never do sub only if it wasn't for me getting afraid of getting banned. So here, I think if Perks moves here, then I think they can dive. The problem is the creeps pass, and then all of a sudden they're tanking all of the Rise spells. So I think just here, Q, E, W, make him burn fruits as early as possible, and then just kill him. Because I think this is a pretty free dive. It's just the Wunder misses first Q. Wunder misses first Q, and then Perks is positioned wrong, I think. Because if Perks is here right now, imagine Perks is here, right? As I mentioned before, then I think this is the freest dive on the planet. But he never procs phase rush because he's just not hitting the GP, and this was a terrible dive. I think this is a free dive, though. Free dive. It's a good dive, but the execution was... and Fnatic gets a kill. Bwipo plays it well. Bwipo plays it as good as possible, and this was a massive swing for Fnatic. Herald, kills on bottom, and a lot of breathing room, right? The Orange Man and the Fnatic fans are going for it. You know, they're going wild. 2 Drakes for Fnatic. TPO Rise on bottom, Lee Sin is hovering behind, and the Herald is being used. Herald was being secured during all of the Mambo Jumbo and top and so forth. Well, actually it was secured even earlier than that. So now we see the GP TP is being channeled, Aatrox has TP and Rise has no TP, but he's running bottom. So this is, once again, G2 are playing such a fucking dangerous game, because this is one of those windows where Veigar actually has prio. So Veigar, you know, right here has prio because Rise died on top. We see his death timer. He was going to walk. And then on top of that, Rise is TPing on midwave. So this was a very, very big mistake from G2. This is a very undisciplined mistake, and they're using Rift when they're not in position to Whippo GP is good. Whippo, the GP is not a problem here. Any top lane pick you're going to pick will be having a hard time here, and Whippo actually played well. So I don't think it's a troll pick, the GP. The GP is very, very good pick. Camille, Shen, Mordekaiser, Rumble would all be worse in this game. Believe me. Whippo is very comfortable on GP, plays it super well, and I think all of the above is definitely a worse option. I think GP was the right pick on third. So it's very, very good. Especially when you see Elise Aatrox, like you're gonna get dove over and over. Like if you're playing Rumble, you're gonna die 50 times. You're gonna play Shen, you're gonna be so fucking useless you can't believe it. Camille, even worse. Like you're going to die many, many times. Mordekaiser, same thing. All of them will die a lot. And GP has a way of always being useful. What about swapping Nautilus and picking Rumble support? It's shit. Rumble support is shit. The only reason it's good is because you want to make sure that you have better matchup of mid and top. That's the only thing that it gives you. Rumble support is not some crazy OP thing that you just lock in for no reason. It's just not the way. But Nautilus mid will not be bad this game. I think Nautilus mid is really underused. I think Nautilus mid is still really OP. Nautilus mid could be good, and then maybe they go Leona, maybe something like that. Could be a way. But Rumble support is only for the flex. You pick it to get better mid-top matchup. Support Rumble is not so crazy. But Nautilus mid, I love Nautilus mid. I think Nautilus mid is OP. Yeah. So Leona, Nautilus, Lee Sin, Nautilus 2v2 mid is very nice. Ashe Varus plus Rumble though, gimmicky. Very gimmicky. There are better lanes. Ashe is underused though. I think Ashe is a very strong champion. Let's continue. So here, just G2, very big blunder. Using Rift on bottom, when if Ryze goes back into mid with these Mercury and this mana pool, he's going to fight for the Prio well and be able to hover into bot. And then he can always be first, and then Veigar will not be first. This is the only moment where Veigar will have Prio for a very, very long time. Veigar is moving into bottom and Rift Herald is being used. So this is what Grabs is referring to when he says that we had a very, very bad game, because always as a coach, these are the type of mistakes that you hate the most, at least on my end. I'm sure Grabs feels the same way. So this was a disaster. GP TP, Aatrox has TP2, Ryze comes behind, obviously, we see it, and then boom, Hilly-san gets stunned, and it's a 1v1. But the Herald is completely wasted. Keep this in mind. 1-for-1, Herald is completely wasted. Mickey should just base earlier. I don't know what he's running around and fapping. We continue. Next thing we expect is still Perks playing for Prio, and then they just look to pressure into side. Mercury is a very, very good buy into Glacial Augment. The slow is very powerful, and reducing the duration of it is key. So you see Senna, Braum, Ryze, Elise, all of them have Mercury, even though the AP damage is not that high here, considering they have Aphelios, Lee Sin, and GP. It's just that you have to buy it when you are a champion without a dash into Glacial Augment. It's very important. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble. We have a trade of side. At this point in time, Caps and Braum, like Braum and Senna, are afraid of any bottom fights because the GP ult is just too powerful, and Lee is actually very matched in strength on Elise. So they look to trade side and break open the map so they can use the fact that they have side lane Prio better. I think breaking the game is definitely beneficial for the team that will win on split. I think Whippo did a great job of holding Aatrox and never actually be pressured by Aatrox. A lot of GPs I see in this matchup after Aatrox is level 7, he begins to pressure hard, and I see a lot of GP players lose. But Whippo played a very, very good game, honestly. I think considering the situation, he got dove 18 times and he's in such a state where he gets Trinity Force. It's phenomenal, honestly, phenomenal. I know that Bippo gets a lot of flack, but in the games that he plays well, he plays really, really well. And to be fair, G2 also trolled their dives. So here, the age-old question was always like, will G2 be able to scale to the point? Mid prio, I think, is quite contested. Elise and Senna and Braum have an easy way of catching something like a Braum or an Aphelios if they walk up too far. It is difficult for... this was a bit of an overstep for Wunder. I wonder if G2 should look to contest a bit heavier here onto mid so they can take some vision into top side, but the issue here is Ryze is clearing top and no one's showing on top, so GP is hovering into mid and they have 4v3 on mid. Lee Sin didn't show yet, and it's a good timing gank here, and Wunder reads that Lee Sin is here before he actually gets stunned and slowed, so he just pieces out. Tricky as well here for Wunder as he's running a Ninja Tabai. He is not so strong against Veigar slows and stuns. So for sure, even though I harped a lot on the Veigar pick, there are very, very good interactions for Veigar against like Veigar against Ryze and Veigar against Aatrox in team fights. It is difficult to fight them, but the game is not necessarily always won in team fights. Here, imagine a world where Aphelios and Senna are like Aphelios is ahead and they had the stronger 2v2 mid into bottom side. All of a sudden, maybe they could be the ones snowballing this game instead of being 2k gold behind right now, right? That is why it is very important to value all factors. You cannot always draft just a composition that's going to be stronger in team fights. Otherwise, we would see Veigar, Lulu, Kog'Maw, and Ornn and Lee Sin every game, right? There is more details that we need to focus on, and you need to kind of fit every check mark. You need to get every check mark in your book. So I understand the reasoning for Veigar. Don't get me wrong. People think I don't understand Veigar. This is some of the comments that I read, but it is just too weak early on. And G2 made a lot of mistakes to make this worse, and Fnatic the same, because of course they had the all-in on bottom that went very, very bad. Lee Sin showing on bottom side and Wunder reading it and flashing out gave, of course, G2 the Rift Herald, because the Ryze got the prio on top, and then they hovered into top side. They broke mid tower now, and this is not super impactful, because I don't think G2 is the team that wants to really hard force. They want to play on side and just... take the skirmishes all over the place. Perkz is jogging away. He will flash. Perkz should just, G2 should just look to play on 3 waves as much as possible. Leaving top wave to slow push is not good. They should look to play on 3 waves, and then when Nash spawns, they can look to play on 2 on bottom and look to pressure dive. Senna also has TP, so all the responsibility to force will fall on Fnatic. The reason we put sub mode on is because there were some people sending vulgar messages in the chat that might get me banned. So I just made sub mode to make a quick solution. Okay. So this is Fnatic looking for an opportunity. Braum and Senna are not in vicinity. Ryze has TP. I think this is what they considered. I think Fnatic felt very, very forced to do something, and I think this is not the way. Here Jankos can also survive. It's just the self-made had quicker hands than him. Like here Jankos has flash, and he also has repel, so I think he's just self-made is just too quick. Started Jad. No, I'm just kidding. Jankos is really, really good. But this was not Jankos Smurf. So this attempt here from Fnatic to force on mid was very bad. I think you heard it on PGL. Reckless was not happy with his performance, but he will look forward and to do better. Fnatic is Reckless is still an amazing player. Like one best of one is not going to change that, It's just this commitment here they did on mid was very disappointing. And so here, look at everyone's position. If we look at it from the replay position, Lee Sin was spotted, Veigar was spotted on this pink here, right? The vision of G2 is splendid. Senna's on top, Braum is in base. They don't know Braum position. Braum could be here for all we know. Braum. Stand behind Braum. Braum could be here, right? Braum could be here. And if Braum is here, it gets even worse, you know? Is there, sure, there is GP ult, but with the information Fnatic has here, this is just a very, very bad all-in, you know? Very, very bad all-in. Wunder plays it good, gets the Q off, and there's the wave to shield and to hit and do damage, and Jankos can even survive here. It's just a blessing that Fnatic get 1v1. Bwipo has recovered a lot. He's quite even in CS, considering the whole situation. He deserves praise. There's the root Sandstorm, 3k gold lead, 2 TPs on G2. Bwipo has TP, he's going to match Aatrox. I think the better way is to put Ryzen to bottom and let him lane into GP. But Bwipo went Mercury's to match Ryze, and he's still doing fine into Aatrox. When I say doing fine, it means, you know, freaking, what's it called? Not being dove, not being pressured enough for it to matter that G2 wins split. Because G2 will just look to farm more efficiently, look to take all jungle and then snowball like this. This is the rest of the game. If you win, if you can push both sides of the map, you can look to enter the jungle, look to move in and look to pressure. Jankos is basically hovering between 2 lanes, and they're just building vision together with Braum on one side, and then Elise is on the other side. And the only thing G2 are looking for is to not get engaged on with worse numbers. They want to take skirmishes as much as possible, where they are, of course, even numbers, meaning like 2v2, 3v3, smaller numbers but even numbers. G2 get away from the fight. They know they don't want to look to force. Here's the Ryze TP. This was just beautiful. Like, look at this. So this was very, very big, right? So Fnatic are looking to group and looking to force. They're losing top wave. So the CS, always, whenever Fnatic is looking to group and look to find an opportunity, they will lose CS, they will lose jungle camps, right? They'll always lose something. Every fight that they take comes at a price. And then here, caps with the W from the movie Troy, you know, because this just catches Reckless ankle. And then here with the TP, it's just that Reckless has nowhere to go. And the best move for Fnatic is to force here. And then the stopwatch needed to be earlier. So I think if Fnatic, they would have better odds if they forced here and then stopwatch earlier, and then that would be the best chances. But just because of the W, this fight starts way too bad. Starts way too bad, and at the same time, you know, Nautilus already burned ult, GP already used ult, and G2 kited out of them very, very well. We saw it just before this. But now the fight is just over. There's nothing to analyze because Reckless just gets straight up one-shotted. And here Perks with a very nice stopwatch. This was like the hope here for Fnatic. The root lands on Veigar. Lee is one-shotted. He's a jungler, of course. And that spells game even further. Bwipo with the try to turn around, but the Seraph embrace with the walk away, and then G2, like Mickey here, he's showing his hatred for Nautilus, because both Hylissang and Mickey, when they're playing Nautilus, they're running it down. They're running it down so hard. They're both inting so much on Nautilus. Veigar is troll, no? Yeah, I think Veigar is troll. I really think Veigar is strong. Peak better scaling against G2. Like, what are you smoking, man? People have been drinking too much of the scaling Kool-Aid. If you're playing against trash team, you know, then it works. But if you are playing against best of the best, then no. What's a good alternative to Veigar in this composition then? I think Nemesis needs a big LeBlanc here, or maybe TF. Something that can contest Prio. Like, I don't know how Diana works in the Ryze matchup, but something they can just fight with. Use the fact that you have Lee Sin, you know? Fight the 2v2 mid, and then play into bottom side. Just enemy is Elise Ryze, so you get so much value from Mercury, and if you have a champion that can abuse that, then you can definitely win the 2v2 mid. Especially with GP ult. Just because Ryze had free reign here, he dove top so many times, and I think that's a problem. But G2 made a lot of mistakes, and hopefully I highlighted all of them. So the next thing in line, we have Void Staff because of all the Mercury purchases. Veigar is getting stronger, level 11 Lee Sin, he's getting serrated Dirk. Good luck in being useful. Wunder walking away. G2 hovering to save Wunder. This is usual stuff, but still, I was very impressed by Bwipo this game. I think Bwipo played well. Bwipo gets a lot of shit, man. This is cool and all. Best attempt at the fight. Very good GP ult, honestly. Very good GP ult. But here, like, Senna is so monster fed, and like he just straight up one-shotted the Lee with his Dusk Blade, and it reeks of desperation, this attempt, right? Whip also not finding a TP, like he needed to TP on this. Like maybe here, you know, maybe here, go TP or something like this. Because where is the TP? Because the moment he kicks, like this is all in, you know, this is balls to the walls, this is the fight that you commit for. And it's a good kick, you know, it's a good start. Caps out of position, these guys, and Elise is like over here. This is a good fight. Selfmade had a good eye for his kicks this game. He's a very clean Lee Sin player. And then boom, he gets fucking one-shotted. I guess here Selfmade has he can go a bit faster. He can go a bit faster, and then maybe he will be better off. And I think he could have flashed like maybe a frame or two closer. Then Hilly Baba dies. Where is the GPTP? It's just nowhere to be found. And off of this, G2 can look to pressure Nash, but they don't. Which was also surprising, honestly. Here, no Nautilus ult, Nautilus boom HP, and G2 are not even threatening Nash. Not clearing vision. Pink ward is in the pit. Vision is all around here. I thought G2 could do more out of this. How can I learn to understand comp scaling and better champion picks for my solo queue games or just games in general? So the thing is, scaling is how well your champion does in contrast to the enemy champions at a later point in the game. There are some games where champions that scale good don't scale good, if that makes sense. There are cases where Azir doesn't even scale good if the enemy is full of poke, right? If the enemy is full of long-range poke, even Azir as a champion doesn't scale good. And this is important to highlight, because your scaling is relevant to the enemy team. Like sometimes people say Ryze scales good, right? People see Ryze as a good scaler, but it's not always the case that he's a good scaler. Sometimes there are champions that are going to beat him on side, and in a lot of cases it's difficult to teamfight with Ryze. The whole purpose of Ryze is that you get ahead because you are so strong on side, and the champion is basically designed to kill golems, right? You kill golems, you almost one-shot them when you have like a Seraph's Embrace and Road of Ages. The champion is designed to kill jungle camps. So in the context of Ryze not winning side and not having the space to take a lot of jungle camps, he doesn't scale that good, because usually what makes him so strong is the absurd amount of gold he has in comparison to everyone in the game. So this is Perks taking, you know, a lot of jungle camps. That's why he's so far ahead. Like, he did a lot of roaming, right? He went into top, he went into bot, he did a lot of roaming. He didn't play for lane necessarily. Now at this point in time, he just took a lot of jungle camps, took a lot of golems, and this is why he's ahead. So scaling is always relevant to what the enemy team picks. GP, for example, isn't always a fantastic scaler, because there's some team compositions where there's a lot of ranged champions where it's very difficult to do anything with GP. You will never find a double barrel, because let's say you're playing against Azir, Lucian, Zyra, just a bunch of ranged champions. GP won't scale good. Like, the GP ult is powerful, but getting a good barrel off is almost close to impossible. GP scales good when the enemy team has a lot of melee champions that are forced to go into you. For example, in this case, we have a Ryze and an Aatrox. Inside, GP will always be on the receiving end of Dick. But in teamfights, his barrels are very powerful to control space, because Ryze has to play on very little space. So scaling is always relevant to the game that we are talking about. Scaling isn't like, let's pick scaling, guys. It's more about, let's pick champions that interact well with the enemy champions, right? At a later point in the game. So yeah, G2, as I mentioned before, not pressuring Nash is a question mark. That's why Fnatic picked Veigar, right? They are thinking about the interaction later on in the game. But with the pieces they had, I think it just doesn't work. They can't get to that point where team fights are going to be so easy because Veigar is so strong with the cage against the low-range champions. The issue is the G2 will win split, they'll win early, they'll win mid-game. And that's just too much of a price to pay to reach the point where Veigar is going to be better in team fights. Because if you're ahead with G2's composition, you'll always have the choice. You don't need to force team fights. You can play on split, you can play on CS, you can play on jungle, you can play on time. Because as you can see in this game, G2 are very far ahead on XP, very far ahead on gold, and that is all because of CS. While Fnatic are spending a lot of effort and time trying to find opportunities to 5v5, which is the right decision. Fnatic need to do this. Their composition's only strength is to look for 5v5s. But G2 always in these fights, kiting out the Nautilus ult, kiting out the GP ult, and then they smack, right? Then they come back in. So the Braum Q lands, and there's the Kakuna Matata, and Reckless is very low HP. And this is enough to secure G2's next Drake. Like, this is a big mistake, because Fnatic here have an opportunity to force a 5v5. It's their dream, right? They have 3 Drakes. The next Drake, G2 needs to contest it in a 5v5 fashion. But Reckless getting caught here is a big deal. Even though he heals up here, Fnatic needed to give up all the space for the Drake before it. So you can see here already, as the fight commences, the position of G2 is already really good, and GP ult is already wasted. That's a GP ult, right? Why is it piss yellow? Like, what the fuck is... Okay, there it is. Piss, I don't know, piss yellow. So this is GP ult, no Reckless ult, and Fnatic don't have the space in River. Every time now Reckless will have to pass here with no flash, it is going to be dangerous. Ryze is in a decent position because he's isolated on his own, and the ultimate, if Nautilus uses it here on any key target, you can easily get away. So you want to ult the Senna, you want to ult the Ryze, but with their position it's just not going to be that impactful. Best hope for Fnatic is just to look to enter here. If a plant was alive here, it would have been so much better, because then Reckless can actually position here, and that's where he needs to be. But passing through here will always be a danger, because Aatrox will always hover here. Wunder plays teamfights on Aatrox really well. He always recognizes the key target and the key space that he needs to cover, and I think this is what makes G2 so fantastic, you know, because all of their players are like this, you know. So here, Fnatic maybe had a little window here to pass when Hylissang is tanking. Like here they needed to pass, and then they needed to be in this position. Like when Hylissang queued in, they need to go here. They need to fight in this space. They need to be in this space. It's very important. Otherwise this fight is not winnable. Because here Hylissang died for nothing, and now Fnatic take the space. It's too late. And then Perk's position is just monster, man. Monster, man. Perk's fucking smurfed this. Look at this, man. Look at this Perks, man. But how OP is it to have Senna E, man? Look at Senna E, man. Giving him invis and then... It was very, very well played from Perks. And Fnatic is just too behind on this point, and the fight started too bad. So there's very little to do. Even if they did what I suggested, you know, when Hylissang queued in, I think they will lose anyway, so it's irrelevant. There's Wunder's parents. God bless them. Very nice people, man. They support Wunder so well. It's cool. It's cool to see. G2 getting Nash. Someone asked, you think Mad Lions can contest OG and Fnatic? No. No, 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 no. Wunder spreading his wings. Spooky Ghost. Is Ninja Tabi the Doom? What is Bwipo doing here? He's on a journey. He's pushing bot. That game is lost, so it doesn't matter too much. Hilly Baba hinting. And Fnatic made it easy for G2 to end. What about Rogue? No. I don't think anyone can contest Fnatic and G2. Not with what we're seeing. Holy Hylissang with the shutdown. I'm thinking about Zillion support here and swap not mid to cause of move speed. No, Zillion support is disgustingly bad. Zillion support is really troll. Leona was an option. And that's it. Okay, that summarizes this review. It was a great game, honestly. I liked it. Didn't seem like G2 and Fnatic liked it so much, but I liked watching it. I thought it was very entertaining. A lot of good moments to learn from and to think about in terms of how you draft and how you prepare and how you move around the map. And G2 didn't play a perfect game at all. You know, they got caught. We had the Caps kick on bottom. We had the dives on top side went very bad. There were two dives in particular that stood out, and I think you know, the best performance of this game. I think Wunder played super well in fights. I think Perks played super well in fights, and I think Mickey played insane too. I think Bwipo played really good. I think Selfmade had a decent game. Selfmade had very little options this game. After bot died, honestly, what do you do? Top is Boom, mid is Veigar, and you had a really shit start because you finished your first buff at 230. And then sure, he could kick Braum faster, but there's very little to do as a jungler in this game, honestly. So I think just Reckless and Hylissang performance was very, very bad this game. In contrast to what they can do, I think. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next game, which is G2 versus Rogue. Peace.